listening to CaveRadioBroadcasting.com. The words and opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management of CaveRadioBroadcasting.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today is Thursday, March 30th, year of our Lord 2017, and you are listening to a Gen Pop Media production. Now, we got a lot of good stuff on the plate today, but I just want to take a second to remind you that we are merely here to stimulate civil debate. Emphasis on civil. But please do not take anything we say as gospel unless we're actually quoting the gospel. Please, we're just trying to get people to do their own research. Hopefully some of the stories we've shared, it's worked many times for many people, and hopefully it's going to work for a lot more, where it just gets them to either think we're right enough or we're wrong enough to go on the internet and do a little bit of research. We love it when you interact with us, when you call into the show, and when you send us, via Facebook or email, the messages you send, either giving us clarification or topics or whatever, because really all the information's out there. If you don't know this, if you don't know the truth, it's because you're unwilling to look, because there are no more secrets, only ignorance. So today, Hooper is on hiatus. He's got to take care of something with his son. So hopefully that's all good. God bless him, and hopefully they have fun. So I have got Nick and I've got Tony D with Dave DiBiase en route.
Good afternoon.
Kenny's got an office karaoke gig. So Kenny's out. So we have a new gentleman behind the board. Who do we got today?
My name is Roger.
Roger, I thought it was you, man, but I wasn't sure because it's been a while. Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole, Roger. Feel free to pipe in at any time.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Everybody's opinions are welcome.
What is an office karaoke?
Those are the good paying gigs because you get paid twice as much to take your karaoke crap to an office. It must be in some kind of office party or like a marketing event.
Some of the most awkward singing you will ever see.
I can imagine. I mean, I go to the bars and see really awkward singing. Yeah, that's some scary shit. And if you think it's really bad, there was one of the Asian airlines. Not sure if it was. I think it was actually a Chinese airline, but it could have been Filipino because nobody loves karaoke more than Filipinos. You're just going to have to take my word on this. But there was a flight I remember a few years ago where they actually had karaoke on the plane. Can you imagine being trapped in a plane? It is 12 hours from the West Coast to Manila. Can you imagine being trapped in a plane for 12 hours with people singing karaoke badly?
No, I'd rather be in the old days when they could smoke on their plane, I think.
Oh, hey, dude, the first time I went to the Philippines in 99, you could still smoke on the plane. Oh, man. Because they didn't have to abide by FCC rules. It's not FCC, it's FAA rules, because I flew on Philippine Airlines. And man, I sat up there in business class and I smoked my butt off. It was awesome.
I'm glad I don't smoke.
It's a horrible habit, and it is impossible to quit. I have tried to quit. I am still trying to quit. It's impossible. It's worse than heroin, man.
Yeah, they get you hooked on it.
They do. Those chemicals are in there for a reason.
Absolutely.
So what's going on, guys? Before we get into the topic, anybody got anything they want to talk about? Current events? Tony was posting some very interesting stuff on Facebook. I see the number that the FBI estimates when we talked about human trafficking last year, and which was precipitated by finding out the numbers on missing children every year, which at that time was just over 500,000. I see that Tony has posted a new article today that number is now up to 800,000, yet no one hears about it. Well, where are these kids going? What's going on, man? Why aren't people freaking out? We want to get upset about the bathrooms at Target or complain about what we think Trump is going to do in the future, but 800,000 children.
Or the puppy dog that stuck down the basement.
Oh, yeah. But 800,000 children a year missing, and nobody cares.
Where is the media? That's my question.
Yeah, where's the media?
Right.
You know, I was watching a video not long ago. There was it was a guy from Jamaica, and he did his own video. Just a townsman, just a guy from the city, and he talked about. He thought it was really strange. Some of these girls would go would be supposedly raped and murdered, but he'd see them and their clothes would be on, but there'd always be a cut in their chest, like a big cut scar. And so he figured out, they're actually taking these kids, younger kids, because the organs are better, and they're harvesting the organs.
And that would not surprise me in the least, because I know that's huge in the third world.
That's right. Yep.
Well, I think there's when you talk about this harvesting of people is what it is. You throw a number like 800,000 out there, and the first thing people go, most of those are runaways. Most of those are this or that.
How smart can a teenager be to actually disappear?
Yeah,
well, I mean, but even think about it. Even if there's 800,000 runaways, I mean, do the math.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's get some real stats and find out what really happens. How many of these people disappear forever? How many people end up being some kind of a victim?
Well, I know of that 500,000 number by the Center for Exploited and Missing Children when we did the human trafficking shows, which actually brought us the lovely Cat as a reoccurring guest on the show. I know that they said that roughly 15% were multiple runaways. So 85% of 500 of just over 500,000, whatever that, I believe it was 562,000 off the top of my head. So roughly 85% of them were unique cases.
Wow.
So, I mean, like I said, the numbers are staggering when you think about it. I mean, if you just think about in passing 800,000, okay, well, there's how many million people in the United States? A couple billion people on the planet. It's not that big of a deal, but if you really think and focus on it for a second, it's like 800,000? And no one cares.
Right, I know.
It's just disgusting to me. We don't even talk about it. But hey, we're gonna beat the crap out of the fact that we're accusing Trump of having Russia help him win the election, even though there's zero proof. Oh, but we're going to talk about that every 30 seconds. And then we're going to talk about the fact that Obama wiretapped Donald Trump, and there's all kinds of proof on how he did it, but there's no indictment coming down.
He didn't climb down there and hook wires up to his.
No, he used the British intelligence service so that there was no trace.
What's really funny about this whole Russian thing is how we're all being used. That's being used to generate. It's to stir up people's emotions.
Right, I agree.
There's something wrong with it.
There's a strategy to it, I believe.
There's a strategy.
Well, there's enough baby boomers left that when you say Russia, they see red. They start thinking Cold War, and we're a little bit outside of that.
I ask myself, as far as being a danger to the U.S., is Russia a danger to the U.S.? I think to myself, what's the most dangerous? Well, one thing is we're $20 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
Okay, Russia had nothing to do with that.
Nope.
There's so many items that are dangerous to the U.S. that our own government has done.
And we're trillions in debt to China.
China, you can go on and on about all the problems that the U.S. has, and that has nothing to do with Russia. And everybody knows that Russia and all these other countries have been spying on each other for years.
Yeah.
They try to do all these different things. That's why they make movies about it. That's why they make TV shows about it. You watch The Americans, a TV show that's popular right now. So it's all about manipulating people. And I can't believe that people are still falling for this. It's
they're programmed well. They're programmed well.
I'm gonna. We talked about Tucker Carlson before. You guys
know
Tucker Carlson.
Yep, I go back and forth with him.
Yeah, I don't know Tucker Carlson. I've watched a few of his shows and things. But the interesting thing was he had a former NSA guy that's been there for 30-something years, William Binney.
Okay.
He interviewed him. After that interview with him, and some other interviews he's done, about Snowden and different things, if you watch on his show and the past few nights, he's brought up, I think, every night with somebody about the whole Russian hacking, about emails, about phone calls, about all these different things. He says right to the guest, whether it's a senator or it's a DNC worker or whoever it is, he says, go to the NSA and tell them to give you that information because they download every electronic communication there is. phone calls, emails. And he goes as far as saying, they're probably tracking our thoughts, which is not outlandish because they do watch your browser history and all these kind of different things. And he is very serious about it. It's the first time on mainstream media that I have heard somebody bring something up like that and acknowledge that, yes, we are being spied on. Yes, they are collecting all this information. And so when they talk about Benghazi emails, get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Get out of here. There's, if they wanted Benghazi emails, they'll go to the NSA and they'll bring up those emails. It's not about emails. That's what everyone wants to make you think about. Oh, this is about Benghazi emails and blah blah blah.
What's your point about what's it about then?
Benghazi?
Yeah.
Oh, Benghazi has been shown that there was a weapons deal going on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
and the ambassador was going to blow the whistle on it. He was against it.
Somebody, something happened there, but that CIA operation that they had going on in Benghazi was going on over a weapons deal, and apparently Putin and Russia had satellite photos that they went to the UN with, right? And that's when they stepped in and started supporting Syria because the U.S. was supplying weapons to the terrorists to overthrow Benghazi and to overthrow Syria. And it's all the stuff has been brought up.
Benghazi's in what country? Libya, right, Libya.
Yeah, so Libya was overthrown. So and that's what this is all about. But the media, okay, these people get paid to do this.
Yeah.
We're amateurs here.
Yep.
We don't get
no.
We're not getting paid to do this. We're doing our own study and our own research.
And we do this because we're passionate. Because
Right.
we're just tired of being fed crap.
Right. Having somebody.
I'm tired of having my intelligence insulted.
Exactly.
And whatever that's worth. But I'm just tired of them. The lies have gotten, and we've talked about this on older shows where. It started out that in the 40s and the 50s and earlier, they were telling white lies. It was plausible, the stuff they were saying. It's like, well, maybe, I don't know, but maybe. But the more success they had with their lying, the more ridiculous their lies became. And that's the point. 9/11 is something. 80% of the country believes that the government story's crap. 80% of the country.
But yet they still try to push these
commissions. If you lie enough,
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say we're going to have a Senate commission put together, and they're going to get to the bottom of this. It's the same thing with this Russia thing.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this Benghazi. It's just talk back and forth.
We already know what happened in Benghazi.
What's actually going on that they're all involved in. People still think there's a right and a left or a Republican, Democrat, or in reality, the people like you and I, we understand that we kind of follow those ideals, but as far as those parties go, that's all gone.
Yeah,
it's all manipulation.
The last Republican,
I agree with you.
The last Republican or Democrat, the last actually partisan president we had was Ronald Reagan. He was a Republican. I'm sure
he was a lot like Donald Trump. That's the correlation.
But Bush Senior, he might as well be a Democrat. And then you got Bush Jr., you got Clinton, you got Obama. And Donald Trump's breaking the mold again. Like I said, I'm not 100% on board with everything he's doing, but you got to give him a chance. You have no choice. If I hear one more snowflake tell me about popular vote.
That's another thing. Do you believe the popular vote?
What?
Do you believe the popular vote?
No, I don't. No.
I don't know many people that believe the popular vote.
No, I don't believe it.
I don't believe that.
I believe that they stole one of the Obama elections. Because here's my problem. I don't know anybody that voted for him. I can't find a single person I know that voted for Obama, and I know people of all. No, I'm sorry. Okay, I should say the smallest percentage. It's like a very small percentage of all the people I know that I've talked to that have voted in those two elections. Out of 100 people, I can come up with maybe 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And I've got a pretty broad spectrum of friends, and trust me, it was 50-50 between Hillary and Trump.
Well, when you have the low amount of voters that we actually have.
Yeah.
You could talk about, the country wants this or the country wants that, but less than 50% of the country votes.
Right.
that are eligible,
Right.
What are you really getting?
Yeah.
And the whole thing with, would it be surprising to you if they discovered that they rigged that election with Obama? Or
no,
Hillary?
they rigged the DNC.
Right.
They rigged the DNC. That's what people are forgetting, because they're not reminding people what Russia supposedly did.
What did they do?
Well, what they did was Russia exposed the emails that proved that Bernie Sanders, that it was rigged, that Bernie Sanders was ahead, and they rigged it so Hillary would be the candidate. And that's what Russia exposed. And that is what Russia did in the presidential election that supposedly helped Donald Trump.
And I don't know if that's really factual, but it could be. And I'll give it to him.
I absolutely believe that they, because I barely know anyone who would have voted for Hillary when it was between Bernie and Hillary. Everybody I know that did not want a conservative candidate wanted Bernie. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought they were going to get free crap.
Well, and I think a lot of people, even whether you're left or right, a lot of people on that side believe that he was different. He was not part of that system. The system we're talking about, which would be the Bushes, the Clintons, et cetera, right? They're all all one cabal.
I tend to agree with you on that.
But he was still a socialist, so it's all the same.
It's not really, because he's not. I did not believe that Bernie was part of that system. Okay, I didn't believe that.
No, I don't believe that Bernie was part of the cabal.
He was an outsider, and actually, whether I agree with his politics or not, I believe when he spoke that he believed in it. Okay,
I would tend to agree with you.
So I don't think he was just out there saying what he thought people wanted to hear. He was out there saying what he believed in, which I could respect that.
I respect whether I agree with him or not. I'm with you. I respect the fact that he believes in what he's doing. I believe that.
And I think a lot of young people saw that. A lot of people on the left saw that, and that's why they support him.
I would think the majority of young people had no clue what his actual politics were. They just wanted something free. They just feel entitled, and Bernie was pandering to them. That's what, or I shouldn't say pandering, because I think he was genuine. Like you said, he believed in it. But Bernie's way got them the most stuff for nothing, and that's why they liked Bernie.
Well, he focused on things like education.
Exactly.
Which is a whole other topic. We talk about these conspiracy theories and how many branches it has, right?
Yeah.
They were talking about the Ivy League schools and how much money they get.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear this story?
No, I did not.
The Ivy League schools, about how many trillions of dollars that they've gotten from taxpayers far outweighs any money that they get from the actual students for tuition.
Okay.
From grants and all these different things from the government. It's just unbelievable how much money has gone in those Ivy League schools. Well, what's not surprising to me is you figure out these people that are coming out of these Ivy League schools and where they end up, right? And we've talked a little bit about this. Where, these guys are. That's where the CIA draws their people from, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's just, when you talk about school, it's really a money-making, rigged system.
I think when you get into those higher Ivy Leagues, I think that's all secret society type, initiations and things like that.
That's where you get the skull and bones. Where you've got Kerry and you've got Bush coming out of the skull and bones. Well, these guys are, what's the chances that these two guys running against each other for president?
Yeah.
All right. And now you start looking back when I start talking about a cabal. People just blow this off. They don't believe it. No, the Republicans fight for this, and the Democrats fight for this, and so this is what people actually believe goes on.
Yeah.
But when you get down to it, you look at like what McCain is doing right now. Okay, what Romney did. These people were up against Obama. Same thing. You're going to vote for president. You want this guy or gal, right? They give you a choice. Pick one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
It's the illusion of choice.
It's the illusion of choice. I agree with you.
So when you have this, you've got Romney and McCain. All these people were part of that same cabal, and they were all marching down that same street, let's say, right? That's why they're against Trump, as far as I can tell.
Right.
So you talk about Paul Ryan when he's bringing out this new health care thing. Well, it's not much different than Obamacare because
No.
they were all on the same page. They all had the
Right.
same plan. That's all these things are together, and that's part of this whole conspiracy.
Mhm.
That's what makes us conspiracy nuts, right?
Yep.
Because we can kind of think about it for ourselves.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it does.
See, I'm along the same lines as you. I've taken it one step further, but this is just a theory, okay? And I really don't know, but I've taken the same philosophy you're talking about, but I've taken it probably I'm playing with the idea of going one step further, meaning the Republicans and Democrats are still working, even though they would be like GM. GM makes a Chevy and it makes a Pontiac, right? I don't know if that's two different. You're right. That's two different ones.
Yes, they are.
Two different. So in other words, Democrats and Republicans, they have some different agendas, but they're two corporations working for the main corporation, which would be some type of satanic or evil system.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, behind the scenes, it's all the same. You know, it's like any of the, okay, so the Republicans are going to cut back a little bit on the welfare programs that the Democrats, the Democrats make them too large so that the Republicans can cut them back a little bit and say, look, we're conservative. We cut back on welfare. Right. But in the end, they're all funneling money to the central bank. They're all funneling money to the defense contractors. They're all pulling CIA crap and trying to overthrow governments all over the world. Yeah. To get everybody to think just like we do.
But this is my question then. Then what's, if that's the case, why should we pick sides, Democrat or Republican? I mean, do you think there's one's better than the other?
No.
Well,
no. I picked someone. I think that Hillary Clinton is the embodiment of evil on earth. So I vote. What? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think she's the most two-faced. Typical. When you think of us, typical political candidate. The fact that she's changed her mind, flip flop.
Yep.
She was a racist in the '60s. She was a racist in the '70s. She's a chameleon. I've seen it firsthand. I couldn't bring myself to. Grew up as a Democrat all my life. In the last 10 years, the whole political system is a fucking joke.
Dude, I am totally with you.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to...
No, and that's fine because that's the fact that people were actually buying the whole Hillary's for women's rights. I mean, how many stories do we have to trot out when she was a lawyer in Arkansas where she's laughing at rape victims and all this stuff? How many of these things do you think she changed? Because I don't.
No, she's a puppet. The point is she's a puppet into...
Well, I think Bill was the puppet.
Bill's a puppet too.
I think she was a puppet master who has a puppet master.
To Nick's point, okay, do you believe in the Republican or Democrat? Now, you can believe if you take out all this corruption that's here, and you could take those ideals and you could say, those are valid ideals that people have, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And in a just society, people would get together and they would discuss it. Yeah. They would argue it, and they would base it on, who has a better argument, who can convince the other person. That's how it should work.
Yeah.
But right now, these people are puppets. Not all of them. Not you've got a bunch of people that are in office that actually think they're there doing what's right. Mm-hmm. But it's the high.
But there's only a handful of them that are.
Right.
I mean, because you want to put Trey Gowdy up for president? I have no doubt where that guy stands, and I'll vote for him in a second.
Well, that's a good point because the fact that Rand Paul isn't president proves how stupid.
That's what I'm saying. I have no doubt in where Rand Paul stands.
Well, it proves how stupid this country is.
Yeah, it is.
He really should be the president right now.
Yeah,
it's how manipulated we are. We were talking about the media manipulation, getting people to believe one thing or another, and have you believe that there's an actual political parties and this is what they're working towards. No, they're puppets, right?
Well, we see this happening right now, real time now.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, the pseudo conservative at best, Donald Trump is going Nixon on everybody now. It's very interesting.
Well, what do you mean by? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you were to summarize Nixon's presidency, I would call it pretty liberal. His policies, domestic policies especially, and you see Trump leaning that way now. He's talking about $1 trillion infrastructure plan now. So what? He's FDR all of a sudden with the new deal. I guess I don't know. wants to expand entitlements yet again with the family leave thing that's going to cost us a ton of money. And once you put that in there, you'll never get rid of that, ever.
No.
And at what...
They never remove entitlements.
At what price? When, meanwhile... excuse me. Meanwhile, on paper, we're bankrupt.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard anyone talk about the debt at all?
Besides us just 3 minutes ago?
Okay, I mean in government.
No.
No, that's what we were saying. We to get you up to speed. We were talking about this whole Russian thing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
This whole Russian thing is going on. It's basically just to spin everybody out to get them
Just to give them something to think about. It's
something
just,
different.
Yeah.
I said to Howard, I said, is Russia dangerous to me? What's more dangerous? The most dangerous thing to me as an American citizen to this country
Was Russia dangerous to us in the 50s?
Is we are $20 trillion in
Probably
debt.
not.
Yeah, it's our own government that's actually our
Absolutely.
biggest
See,
threat.
I'm glad he showed up.
Yeah.
Because the Russia thing is awfully interesting because you have what I consider smoking guns on the news.
Yeah.
And no one's interviewing these individuals. You had a deputy secretary from the Defense Department. I forget her name. She pretty much just was on I think the Morning Joe.
From Obama's staff. I saw those interviews.
No, she was interviewed on the show, but she pretty much sat there and admitted that
they were collecting data.
And pushing former colleagues, which means people that have since left office, to divulge more information.
Yeah.
And how come the FBI isn't talking to this woman? How
I don't
come you know what I'm saying?
Well.
And on top of it, whatever the information is one issue. The fact that it's being leaked is a whole nother.
Yeah.
There should be dozens of people going to prison right now. This is a really big deal, as far as I'm concerned. Did Russia... I guess are they trying to make the case that the reason that Hillary lost is because Russia?
Well, that's what they're trying to lead you to believe. That's what they're not coming out and saying it, but they're giving you the nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah.
That's why it won't go away.
Well, the woman wasn't even electable.
I hear you.
So it didn't need Russia to.
Right.
We didn't need it.
Well,
so
I actually, when you bring up something like that, you bring up these WikiLeaks or whatever Russia did, right? All of a sudden we're getting our information, the truth, from Russia, and our media is silent.
Yeah.
So who would you stand by at this point?
Well, you got to couple that with the fact that we know now, because they came out and said it, that they have the means to put fake footprints on
the server, yeah.
So they can make it look like whoever did it.
Right. What's interesting is...
So we could have hacked ourselves and then turn around and said, see, it came from
our intelligence group wouldn't do that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah. Stand up, dudes.
Next
year they don't lie for a
Next you're going to be telling me they're going to bring down buildings in New York and kill 4,000 people. You're crazy.
That stuff, and I was telling them about Tucker Carlson, who had an interview with William Binney, NSA, 30-year NSA guy. And after that interview, what's been funny, he's been watching Tucker when he interviews these different people, is he's asking them, where are you getting your information from? Why can't you get this piece of data? Why can't you get this email or this phone call or whatever? Is it outrageous that this is all collected? He says, because you can go to the NSA, because the NSA has downloaded every electronic communication that's been in the U.S. since the tower attack, basically, they were saying.
Yeah.
I'm
every
sure
email,
before
every phone
that.
call.
I'm sure before that.
Well,
all this stuff is coming out. It's like oh, that doesn't happen. How stupid are we?
Yeah.
Well, that's I found it funny when they came out recently and outlined that they can use our phones, our computers, our smart TVs, and they are to spy on citizens.
Right.
Now I remember warning about this when that piece of crap legislation, that Patriot Act, was put forward. I said, "You watch. This is what's gonna happen. You just blew the doors wide open."
Yeah.
And what it's not that practice that's shocking. What's shocking is people going, no way, they can do that?
Yeah.
Our government will do that?
They can do that?
You know what I'm doing right now?
Why do you think I put electrical tape on the camera? I mean, I've always done that because it's a camera connected to a computer that's connected to a network that I have literally no control over or any way to see who's accessing this. Common sense would tell you that, of course, they're going to use this.
Like, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm tracking so I run a website, sportsradiotruth.com, and I'm going to the total downloads, and I'm going by, so I'm checking right now on the website, go to trending, and then I go with the IP addresses, and I copy and paste, and I go to what's myIPaddresses.com, copy and paste it, and I can look and see where people are downloading my show from.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's you.
Rudimentary.
Yeah,
that's just you.
Yeah,
sitting here.
Yeah, well,
with no clearance, no security, upper level, nothing. You're just a regular dude like us.
I'm just like, I'm only doing it because I want to track where my listeners are coming from, not because I'm gonna mail them or anything, but just for example, it gives me the latitude and longitude. So if I want to really get paranoid,
dude, you could go on Zillow and find out what their house looks like.
If I really want to know what my listeners are really listening to, like, or for example, that we have a 5% uptake in Canadian listeners.
Nice.
I mean, it's weird, and every time I tell people that,
must have been that show on curling.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's all the hockey stuff I'm doing, but like, it's just.
Curling,
but still, it's just it's creepy
doing?
That I can do that though.
Well, you know,
dollars doing that.
What's creepy is, again, would be people's reaction to, like, let's take satellite imagery for a good example, because this one, you know, you say, oh, it's so incredible what you can. The images you can see now from just Google Earth from satellite, providers. And when you bring up a fact like, well, if we have access to that, I can see what kind of car is in your driveway from a satellite image. Believe me that they can see what color your eyes are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. Oh, they're not. No, this is just for, it's just for, really? Go look at some of those images close. Look at the border, images of the border, how they purposely squiggle that so you can't see what the border looks like to find ways in. Believe me, dude, that you can't even believe those, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
those
Will Smith movie with Gene Hackman. That was an example of what was to come.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
Enemy of the State, but everybody was like, they can't do that.
Oh, yeah, that's movies.
No,
but
that when I saw that movie, I'm just like, oh.
Well, life imitates art, right? That's what I always say. So when you see it in a movie, it's already happening times 10, I'm sure.
Yep.
Life imitates art, or art imitates life. It's getting very blurry right now.
I would say that it's leaning more towards life imitates art, because it's like it's almost, when you see Minority Report is a good example of this. When that movie came out, it was like, wow, that'd be crazy. Well, guess what? It is crazy.
Yeah, in Chicago, baby.
Now, it's pretty soon. How many times
they're using statistics to predict future crime and
Yep, and then how many times you gotten? I think we talked about this. I talked to somebody about it at work, where my phone is patterning my behaviors. Yeah. So when I get in the car, I only come here on Thursdays. When I get in the car on Thursday, it knows I'm coming here. It tells me the fastest way to get here.
That freaked me out.
I've never used GPS to get
I've
here.
never had... it came up on my phone exactly what you're saying, and I was like...
How does it know I'm going to Redford?
Exactly.
See, so it's only a matter of time before...
Not that we're in Redford.
We are not.
Right,
we are in a bunker at an undisclosed location.
Yeah, we are in West.
Watching us right now
under a lake. But no, I mean, so when that movie, I said this is. So you remember the scenes, right? Where he walks into the mall, scans your retina. Oh, hey, Mr. So and So, we know you like this. This is literally happening. Yeah. So they track credit card purchases. Mm-hmm. They track all these things to gain a level of understanding of your behavior, and now it's become algorithmic to where just computers will decide what it is you're doing or not doing, or what was it?
I remember 3 or 4 years ago I started flipping out because I was on Facebook, and I'm looking up all these. All of a sudden, all the ads on Facebook are for the exact musical instruments I was looking at on completely different websites a week ago. All of a sudden, every guitar and every new amp I looked at, they're all popping up on Facebook, one after the other. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah. Well, you look at what happened in it was in New Jersey. I want to say, I don't remember the name of the manufacturer. I want to say LG, but I could be wrong. You can look it up. They just settled a class action lawsuit because they used their smart TVs.
It was LG.
Was it LG?
I'm almost positive.
To spy on 11 million customers for marketing data, quote unquote.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it was LG.
And they had to pay up. They lost. They paid like $2 million to some class, and that was just in New Jersey, by the way.
I'm pissed. I bought a Samsung.
So, but they're doing it too. It doesn't matter. And even if the TV companies aren't doing it, it's not that hard to backdoor your TV, turn on mics, turn on cameras. Mattel did it with a friggin' doll.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be talking to your kid and zapping what your kid said back to Mattel, and they claimed this was for marketing research. I would not allow that thing in my house. Are you kidding me? Well, who says it's off?
Yeah.
Right.
It's never
I've
off.
never heard of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's never off.
This is ongoing. So when what's the creepiest part is not all this stuff.
You have to realize if someone gets caught doing that, that means that everybody's doing it. It's just one person got caught.
Well, that's right. That's what I mean. That was just New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. Went to court in New Jersey. So that was just that little spot, and that affected 11 million people. So you take that, and every state, every city, every place, everywhere. Why do you think they're building these gigantic buildings in really, really cold climates, and all they are gigantic memory banks? What do you think they're using this stuff for?
Storing all that data.
Every bit of it.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard they're storing data in like DNA now, like the size, like they can store like the equivalency. I forgot.
Did
you guys hear about this?
The ultimate and creepy, dude.
Yeah, did you hear about this? Like DNA storage. Like,
I have heard of this.
Yeah, memory storage in size of like DNA files. Like they can store like the equivalency all in just like one little thing. So or they're finding ways to take brain waves and make like electricity. I'll tell some wild story. It was like very Matrix like this week.
This is this almost bleeds into like the transhumanism stuff.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering about. Life imitating art or vice versa. Is that are these Hooper would say that this is all planned out, right, from the Illuminati or whoever, and they are releasing this information gradually to get people accustomed to what's
right.
going to
TV
happen.
shows.
Soft disclosure.
So
it's soft disclosure. That's one of my favorite terms because this happens constantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? Just, we talk about this a lot, but look at the sheer volume of alien-themed TV shows, movies, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think that is?
They're desensitizing us to the idea of aliens.
Yeah, because they're going to show up.
Right.
And they're
going to
not
be friendly and cuddly.
Well, they're not going to be aliens, but
yeah.
Well,
you got that video I sent you from Facebook, didn't I? From Gaia, I sent you and Dave. It was just Gaia.
It was kind of a. I didn't actually. It wouldn't let me like click on it.
Oh, okay.
It was just kind of like a. It was short.
Well, I sent that to you because that's what you were just talking about. But it's on Facebook all the time. In the ad section, it's promoting aliens coming and what they want to do for us and help us out.
This is at GAIA.
Yeah, GAIA. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I sent that to you.
Yeah,
so
I remember seeing it, and it was just kind of like a.
It wasn't coming through.
No, it was almost like a commercial for it.
It was a commercial for it.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, I just wanted to send that to you because they put that on all the time. It's just
there's so many of these things though that it just to me when you see that now, you look at it and say, okay, this is what they're doing with this GAIA. What I believe, I don't even know it.
Gaia or something like that. It's like a.
I watched like the intro and a couple different things and looked at what kind of shows they have. But to me, it's just like what you're saying. What they're doing is they're putting this out here. They're getting people ready for all these things, and they're presenting it like, "Oh, this is science.
This is
science.
This is
look how neat this is." There's so many shows out like that right now that you look at and you're like, "Wait a minute, why are they promoting? Why are they promoting aliens? Why are they promoting this? Why are they? It's like
seems
a
like
soft disclosure."
Well, and every other week now it seems like, and that's probably not completely accurate, but close. they're always finding these, Earth-like planets that are very similar, and they could possibly, and all this Mars, and I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're not picking up what they're laying down, you're not paying attention,
Right.
at all, because really,
Well, they can get you to.
they have no idea.
to get into this dream world almost. Like, this is how the world. This is when it starts talking about like flat Earth and some of these other theories. I don't even call them conspiracy. Just different theories. They get you to reject so many different things and to accept so many different things. It's like they're basically telling you how to think. They're putting you in a dream world. They're putting you in a.
I agree with you. I've been leaning towards that. I've been leaning towards that perspective a lot lately.
And once you start, if you realize this,
It's not a fun place. It's not a fun place to personally be, though.
No, it's not. It's
No.
very troubling. But you see it and you start watching, and you see different things. You're talking about, the Google Maps, right? Tim Allen comes out and he says, back in the old days, if a government came by and they were taking pictures of your house and everything, you'd be out there, busting on the car and, calling the cops and all kinds of stuff. Now all of a sudden, they bring a car over that says Google on the side, and you're out there waving to
Yeah.
them.
And it's fine. Yeah.
It's fine.
Because Google's not supplying information to the government, right?
Well, they're not developing AI either.
Oh, no. God, no.
Well, here's an interesting one. They just announced that Jeff Bezos is now the second richest person in the world. Did you know this?
I did not know this.
Jeff Bezos, Amazon.
Yeah.
They got all this stuff going on with Amazon, right? So, and he also owns the Washington Post. But they fail to tell you that the CIA gave him $600 million last year.
Really?
Why is this?
Wonder what for.
I wonder what for.
Yeah. $600 million.
$600 million from the CIA.
Yeah.
Our tax money, or, drug money, however they
Whatever.
earn that money, selling opium from Afghanistan.
Yeah, whatever they're doing.
So
coming right through Arkansas.
But they're telling, here, Jeff Bezos is such a great businessman, right? And these are the richest people in the world. I'm looking at this. It's got Bezos. It's got Warren Buffett. A couple of these people, right? That are the richest in the world. I'm thinking, wait a minute, where are the Rothschilds at?
Yeah.
These people couldn't shine their shoes.
Right.
When you
Well, it's the
Rockefellers,
same thing. They do
Rothschilds,
the
all
same thing with insurance companies. Okay, insurance companies do not report their profit margins, and the reason is because if we found out, we would flip out.
Right. Yeah. So all this stuff is hidden. All this, everything is manipulated. And the more you get into it, the next point.
Anything you're shown is a dog and pony show, just to keep you satisfied that you may be able to keep up. Because the people with the real money, you'll never know how much they have. They probably don't even know how much they have.
Well, we don't need to know how much they have.
Right.
But what we do need to know, however, is how much the government is stealing from us.
Well,
that is what we have a right to know.
I think the money as a whole, I see it a little different. I see the money as a whole control system. I mean, for God's sake,
I agree.
It's satanic symbolism all over it. But, I think it's more of a control system somehow.
It's used as such because it's not. It hasn't been maintained as the way it was intended. It's not real money anymore. It's fake.
It's not.
Right.
No, it hasn't been in a very long time.
Right. It's fake money now.
Yeah.
So when it was sound currency, it prevents that kind of control.
You used to be able to exchange. That's from what I know. You used to be able to. There used to be $1 of gold to back up your dollar bill. And
Yes,
not since 1978.
Something like that. No.
68.
No, it was Nixon.
Well,
Yeah.
Nixon was...
Was it 68?
No.
I don't think so. 71.
It had to be 71 because
71.
Nixon was after Johnson. 78 was Carter.
I think it was 71 when he dropped that bomb.
That was actually pretty ingenious. You think about it. Let's convince people to give up their gold for a piece of paper. I mean, that had been.
Well, they removed.
That's probably
us,
that's worth a study one day. I think.
Yeah, they removed us completely from the gold standard. So what they did is blew the floodgates open for this fiat currency, and you hear that a lot. So it's become cliche, but that means at will. I mean, so they just print it. I don't care.
Right, but I'm even talking about before that when you had the gold prospects and you literally had gold. I think they literally had gold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and which is actually legally the only thing that's allowed to be used to pay any debt in this country. Technically. It's gold and silver. And that's written right in the Constitution. But it's just convenient to ignore that.
That's a worth a study.
1971.
1971.
Yeah, I mean, and put it this way, and I got this from Ron Paul, and he's dead nuts accurate. The government should not be able to do anything with money that you and I can't do with money.
Right.
What makes them any different? In fact, we should be able to do a little bit more with money than they, right? Because the whole idea of the Constitution is to limit their rear ends, not us. It's to protect us from them. It's not the other way around, right? So it's just been it's toilet paper now. Doesn't matter. You know, just whatever. Yeah, but it's clearly stated that
that's a good point.
You know what's interesting about that? Because I mentioned this on a Facebook post last year. Okay, about the debt, $20 trillion in debt. What's going to happen when and if we default on that? Okay, who's going to come for something? All right, so I'm looking this up, and on your birth certificate, it basically pledges you against that money.
Right.
Are you aware of any of this stuff?
I heard that too.
Wait, what now?
On your birth certificate, you're basically pledged that you own that debt on your birth certificate.
What part of the birth certificate?
I have to look it up. You guys keep talking. I'm going to look it up.
Well, I mean,
that's a good subject.
You are anyway as a citizen, so
since you're,
it doesn't need to be spelled out on your birth certificate.
There's something else about that, and I've heard someone say it, but I don't have any information on it. It's worth actually digging into that, but somebody told me.
First time I've heard that.
Probably know.
No, somebody told me also, everything that we have is in caps. Our driver's license, our birth certificate. We are somehow turned into a corporation at that point, and there's a whole kinds of manipulation with money, like you're talking about. But someone told me once, and it was a one-time thing, and it was really interesting. But I don't remember any of it. But it was really you're basically what you're saying goes along those same lines, and there's something to that.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
sure.
When the nation is in debt, especially to the level we're at, I mean, we're insolvent beyond any shadow of a doubt. I mean, we're belly up, dude. But it's propped up, falsely. But people who aren't even born yet are in debt as a result of what these maniacs are doing.
Yeah.
So people that aren't even my small little children, 3-year-old little girl is in debt already, and she can't even write her name.
See, I have a really hard time taking all that completely at face value because of the layers of lies in the system. But I get what you're saying. If it's at face value, then yeah, you're right. I mean, it's
well, I mean, I've heard people balk at reports from the CBO, right, when they say things like, for example, inflation is such and such %, and people say, well, that's just what the government's telling you. Now, that's a valid point, but unless you can tell me what it actually is, all we have is the Congressional Budget Office's reports.
Right.
So you can balk at them, but unless you have other information to offer and say, no, it's actually 4%, and show me why it's 4 and not 2 as far as the inflation rate, then that's just hot air. I mean, as far as I'm concerned,
you mean government statistics aren't accurate?
If they're inaccurate, all I'm saying is that we need to be able to show how they're inaccurate. So when I see a report from the CBO, I take it at face value because I don't have anything to say.
Right, there's nothing to compare it to.
That it's not correct.
Right.
Now, being that it's all based on fake money in the first place, but when we are, if you. This is what's so mind-boggling about this. If you conducted your household the way these psychotic maniacs are conducting affairs in our government, you would probably end up in jail. But let's just say
prison.
Let's just say that's off the table and it's not a criminal act. It's just simply irresponsible. You would have a tow truck repo in your car. The bank would foreclose on your house. They would levy your wages. They would put you would be so screwed. The IRS would probably file charges against you because But how is it that they can borrow a very large chunk, 40%, I think, of everything they spend. They actually are borrowing. So they're not even, the deficit is
And the whole point is you get to it.
insane.
Who are we borrowing it from? Okay, which is the Federal Reserve, which is not a federal institution. And every dollar that they get has more interest on it.
Yeah.
So there's no way, I don't see any way to be able to pay that off.
No, what
You
we're
can't pay
doing,
it off.
you notice what they use words like, we won't even be able to service the debt. They always talk about servicing the debt. You know, what that means is all they're doing is paying the interest.
Mm-hmm. They're
They're not touching the principal. They're not paying any of it off.
So what in your mind, you listen to Ron Paul and these things. When this comes down, okay, if and when it comes down to where we were to default on this trillions of dollars, right, that's owned by the Federal Reserve, and we all know it goes up to the Rothschild banking system, right? What happens? What happens to us as an everyday citizen?
Well, there's a few scenarios that could take place, right? So if you default on debt, someone's going to look to collect one way or the other. However that may be, I don't know. But take China, for instance. They own a big portion of our debt. They're going to want some sort of payment, whether it be in the form of real estate or businesses or what, I don't know, right? But then that scenario, obviously, we're going to say no. This could easily lead to war.
Well, they could come over and try to take it over, right?
Well, they could. I mean, it could lead to war, or as a result of our currency being inflated to, and this has happened in other nations. I mean, this is not a new thing. You start inflating the currency to a point in a panic mode where a loaf of bread's $1 million, that kind of thing. The currency collapses. Then they just magically create a new one, right? Yeah. Or, another scenario would be like what happened when they formed the EU. People got, depending where you lived in Europe, people got effing ripped off. So, like if you were a citizen of Germany, you went to bed on Thursday night and Friday morning you woke up and they just stole most of your money. So you had X amount of Deutschmarks in the bank, but they converted it to euro. But don't worry, everything was equalized. So you had 1 million Deutschmarks, and then you wake up and now you got like 40,000 or whatever it is, right? Those aren't actual numbers, but it was a very, very insidious, underhanded way to steal from every single human being at that time. Mm-hmm. Now, go to other nations that...
And you can find that throughout history more than a few places.
This is just something that would be in most people's memory right now is the EU, and you see what's going on with Brexit, right? Mm-hmm. UK's had it with it.
You got all
the
Greece.
Congratulations to them, dude. Give them the finger. But, of course, this is going to be a disaster. Why?
Right.
Why is it going to be a disaster? Oh, the EU, why? I don't see a mystery here. They are sick and tired of unelected bureaucrats that are not connected to them in any way in Brussels calling the shots for their sovereign nation.
Policy. Yeah.
And they're like, forget it. So a scenario like that could play out. Look, the U.S. dollar's dead, so here's what we're going to do.
That's where I was going with this, is basically what you're outlining there is once you hit a point like that, now the next day when you wake up, instead of U.S. dollars, what do you have? UN dollars.
Yeah, or, that they did a test case for the Amero. You remember this?
The Amero because...
Remember that?
Yeah.
They actually did a test case on it.
Canada, U.S., and Mexico.
Yeah, it was going to be North American currency.
The North American Union.
Right.
And they had the Amero, they called it. And it
you
literally.
guys are crazy. That's not going to happen.
But it actually already did happen.
I know.
They had as a test case, and it was on TV, is they had a ticker showing currency values, and the Amero was in the list, just to see, how it would go over. For the most part, I think United States citizens are not they're gonna give them the finger, and probably more than that. But sure, they could say, "Oh, this is the way to go," right? The U.S. dollar, it failed. Okay, so if you had, you worked all your life and you got $5 million in your 401k, which is, I mean, it's a government slush fund.
They're going to sweep that into their.
Well, now it'll be you know, I don't know. You had 5 million, but this is the conversion rate based on the market value.
You could
based
do that,
on,
but I say more that would happen is more like, you know, what we talked to our other friend about was that would all get swept up into a government retirement account.
Oh, the 401k.
All your 401ks and everything. Before you'd have a collapse, all this money that's in everyone's 401ks and retirements account would get swept up into a government fund, and then they would.
Yeah. Well, this was Joe Biden's baby. Called it pension easing.
Yeah.
Pension easing. So they're going to take your money, right? Which they're only entitled to a certain percentage of it based on income taxes. Mm-hmm. But they claim it's theirs because
you haven't paid taxes.
It's pre-tax dollars. So all of it's theirs, this is why you don't deal with the government. But yeah, so they would just put that it would be the new Social Security. Mm-hmm. So they would say, it doesn't matter. If you had $15 million in your 401, that's not fair because the guy down the street never saved a penny in his life. So now you're going to get $2,500 a month, like Social Security check, and guess what? So is he.
Right.
And that was what they were referring to as pension easing. This is a fantastic idea. No, it's stealing. Social Security, you can find recordings of this, of, I believe, LBJ, basically admitting that Social Security was a tax balloon. They knew it. And they didn't want that information getting out because people would have freaked out and it never would have succeeded. But it was never intended to be for retiring individuals. It was always meant to be a tax balloon slush fund. What have they always done with the money in Social Security?
Borrow against it, right?
They steal it.
Yeah.
They don't borrow nothing.
They call it borrowing.
Because they never pay it back. Why is it going to be insolvent all of a sudden? And
they'll gladly pay you Tuesday
for a hamburger today. So they knew this going into it. That was the design of the system of Social Security. But everyone's like, well, you know, they're not doing that.
Well, you know, they do this all the time. Look at the healthcare right now. Okay, my argument is this healthcare was never planned to succeed.
No. Oh, no. On paper, it's a failure, and they knew it.
It was never planned to succeed, but yet people are still under the impression that, this is going to work.
Oh, yeah, and there are people that are happy that, you know, that Trump's new health care didn't pass, and it's like,
I'm happy it didn't pass because it was a piece of crap.
I know.
It was the same thing as...
It's a disaster.
But it's the same thing as what we got. I mean, it's all crap, man.
It's junk. It's garbage.
I agree.
And it all leads to single payer, which is what they want.
Right.
So they can kill you off when you when you don't fit into the equation, because that's literally what they do. They take your age versus this versus this.
You become Soylent Green.
You get a pill, go home. You, by the way, you get all the best treatment. And they literally, it's not even a secret. They prioritize people between the ages of 14 and 40. If you're outside of that spectrum, you're not given priority because you're not person that produces, pay more taxes. Because if you're under 14, you can't work. Over 40, you're getting old, right? So just whatever. We've already soaked you for, and this is.
Here's where your algorithm comes in, right? where they take all these, all this information about you, and they say, well, this person is never going to be able to repay a certain amount, right? Because we've got their tax history, because everything's tied to the IRS now. So you run these algorithms, it's just like you're saying. Yeah. Oh, there'll never be a death panel.
Well,
there is.
There'll
be a computerized death panel.
Yeah. It's in there, and. You know, they say, well, why treat the 60-year-old when you got this, 17-year-old that needs blah, blah, blah. And this is a farce because all they ever focus on is this word called coverage, insurance. Mm-hmm. What good is it? Let's just say everybody, the stroke of a pen, everybody in the country, doesn't even matter if you're a citizen, who even cares at this point, you have health insurance. And you get a card and everything with your name on it, and a group number, and a bin number for your prescriptions. And that's awesome. Everyone's got health insurance. But then go try to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then it doesn't cover anything.
Right.
And you got $30,000 deductible, and you're waiting 9 months for an MRI, but you have insurance.
Yeah.
Well, yay for us.
Yeah.
Yay. That's awesome. We have insurance, but doesn't cover anything.
This is how brainwashed, and this is where the media is complicit in this. They are pushing all these agendas for the government. This is where this money, this Jeff Bezos money, he owns the Washington Post, by the way. So
this is, again, how can a guy like that who owns a newspaper receives that kind of money from the CIA and no one's looking into this?
And especially
if you or I did that.
Especially since it's been out before, Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA has put people in the New York Times, Washington.
Yep.
You know, they're paying for propaganda.
Yeah.
And all these people, I'm saying all these people, all of us, continue to listen to these news stories and actually start to believe it. You know, it's hard not to believe, Dan Rather or...
Yeah, well, I mean, until your eyes are open, then you don't believe any of them.
Yeah, and I don't.
Right.
That's the hard part. Is I don't believe any of them.
No, I don't believe any of them.
Now when you hear it, I get angry.
Yeah, me too. Me too. You know what? You know who else is going to get angry? Our sponsors if we don't run some commercials. So we're gonna let Roger take us to break, and we will be right back. I want to spend the next hour talking about Nick has done some incredible research on this, so we're going to let Nick. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Nick and let him explain some things, and we're going to ask questions. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, good. All right, thank you. I one of the subjects that came up, and it always comes up a bit for me, is the subject of hell and what does it mean and what does the Bible talk about. But one of the things when I went over the subject, the subject of hell, this particular study that I did, it isn't so much about proving or disproving hell, as much as one of the things when I gave you guys this study is really to see that you can trust the Bible, that you can go back and you do some digging and you can see what the original words meant, either through a Strong's concordance, or you can go back into the Bible and actually see word usage, and you can actually test some of these things out.
What version of the Bible do you read?
What version?
Yeah, what version do you find to be the most accurate?
The one that I have right now is, I have a New King James version is what I'm reading. There's a little buzzing going on.
There's a little buzzing on our end.
There's nothing I can...
As long as it's just in our headphones.
Okay. Some of the other things I've studied too are the different interpretations of the Bible, and sometimes just understanding those interpretations and how they were interpreted makes you a little bit of a smarter person.
Right, I agree.
And you can look at, because some of the Greek words have more than one word for it, and the interpreters, let's say they had well-meaning intentions, they had to pick a word, and that sometimes can influence. So really, if you really want to be a good student, there's nothing wrong with going back and being a good student, going and looking at the different words that some of those Greek words.
Well, that's very interesting. If someone wanted to go back and do this, okay,
right?
That's there's different versions. If someone wanted to go back and do this, okay,
right?
Technical difficulties.
Are we good now?
No, we're good now.
Okay, good.
So if someone wants to go back and study this, okay, where's the best place to get this original meaning information?
Yeah, I mean, do you have to learn Greek?
Okay, well, here's some possible here. No, it's really not that complicated, and that's what one of the things through the study. This was really the prime. In all honesty, when I wrote this, I wish I wasn't such a heated topic, because one of the underlying lessons in here is to see that you can go and see different words. But to answer your questions, you can go to Young's, you can go to Strong's. Those are both concordances that you can go back and look at some of the original words. But really, one of the best ways is going and seeing how the word was used in other parts of the Bible. So I actually have a Bible. It's a King James Version Bible, but this guy did a great job on this. It's called the Companion Bible. And so he uses a King James translation, but in this particular Bible, you can go, and it gives you side notes. So if there's a word that you have a question, you really want to do an in-depth study on something God said, you can go back and see how he used that. First of all, the original word, whether Hebrew or Greek, and you go back and see where that was used elsewhere. Just like if you were going to read a fictional story or any other kind of book, you learn by word usage.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is that it allows you to trust the Bible. It allows you to trust your own source. As opposed to going and getting an outside opinion, you can go, like I would tell people not to trust me. Don't trust me. Go and build your trust in this Bible, because, if this is what if God wrote all this, these are his words. I mean, let's not modify them. Let's not change them. Let's not add outside meaning to them. Let's just hear exactly what he said and the exact words he said. Like, that would be the best way. So
right. Well, at least we have the original manuscript. I mean, we have the Bible. Unlike when you're trying to discern what the government is saying, I mean, you never know what the original source is. You never know what the truth is. We have truth in front of it, so we should spend our time to clarify the truth in our eyes and learn as much as possible. I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
that's actually a perfect segue into this, because one of the first things I start with in the study is the word Gehenna.
Nick,
go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah, go ahead.
You guys, when we're talking about the Bible, okay, it's pretty well known that there's obviously different translations of the Bible, different versions, things like that. Where do you guys stand as far as, the books of the Bible, leaving books out of the Bible, on that whole situation?
Well, that's
a whole nother.
Well, that's a really good question,
Yeah.
but I think as far as like the different Bible versions, you have to go back to the original Hebrew or Greek. So Old Testament, go back to the Hebrew. New Testament, go to the Septuagint, the Greek. And then you either have to sit there and toil and translate it yourself, because this is really all these guys did. You can do this with any language. I mean, you can translate a German document into Spanish or Chinese into whatever. I mean, this can be done. It's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time.
It's there's some good tools out there too. So, for instance, I have quite a few good tools. To answer your question,
well, I guess the question would be, who would you trust that has done this to get back to the original meaning?
I'm answering that question. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because you do have some different translations, and you have maybe on some of them you might have had unwittingly some prejudice maybe about certain things.
Yeah, some are better than others.
So understanding, it's like a tool. So understanding who translated it. I have a Woos. Matter of fact, I have a Woos Bible. I love this Bible. The guy, what he did, and it was a good, he did a good work in his life. He made a Woos Bible. So what he did is, it's not an easy read. It's not something that you'd pick up and read to your kids, because for every Greek word, if there was more than one word to explain that word, he put them all in there. So you literally, you can go in there. So if you're like, oh man, I wonder what this verse really means, you go in there and you can read. And he puts all the words he possibly can in there to really try to explain maybe one particular word that a translator would have used.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is I have another Bible that actually puts I don't know if it's 5 or 6 translations all in the same Bible. So you can read all of them in parallel to each other. So now,
right. Yeah. There are many. There are a bunch of websites online you can do that.
And there's websites, I'm sure, that do that now. So, one of the things I questioned at one time, like, oh, geez, why isn't this all just so straightforward? Why? And I haven't answered that question entirely. I mean, why are there different translations? And why does the NAV now change certain words a certain way? And, and it hasn't ruined my faith. But, it is a question. It is kind of a question I have, like, why isn't it just simple? Why do I have to dig? I mean, why do I need to dig on some of these things? So,
well, it's because you're about 1,800 years removed from the original faith.
Well, and there's maybe a point to be made there too, is that maybe God wants you to dig.
No, that's definitely fair that's part of it.
Fair enough. So
well, that's a good point, and you want to dig on it, but I think what Nick's bringing up, the point is where and if you have things like you're mentioning, where is the best one to start with that you guys trust, right? Because you've done a lot of studying on it. You're obviously into a lot of different things. So,
well, for me, it's kind of a good beginner Bible, I guess, is the NIV.
Well, it's a good beginner Bible
because it's written in common language we can understand. But you have to. I found out very quickly that they've taken liberties with some of the translations, and so you have to. You're always good looking back at the King James. but it's
That-
hard to read.
Yeah,
Can I my input on the NIV?
Sure,
So
go ahead.
just so understanding the NIV, and I think the NIV is a great book, but it just so you guys understand, it does help to understand how it was written. So just like in your business, it's done committee style.
Right.
So think about it. Sometimes committee style, like in your business, let's say you want to make a mold. I know you do machining and stuff, and you know that you and another guy are just the best at this, and all of a sudden now it's going to be done committee style. Now you got the accountant in there, and you got all these other people trying to
You sure you don't work at my
design a piece of machinery, and all of a sudden it's done committee style.
Yeah.
No problem. Just understand it's committee style.
Yeah.
So I prefer,
There are compromises made.
there could be a compromise. Yeah.
Well,
that's
there's
right.
one. I mean, really a good example, and we won't dig into it because I know you want to get into some points. But as far as an example of where the King James varies radically, in my view, from the NIV, and that's the Book of Genesis, when it talks about why Noah, where Noah curses Canaan.
Right.
Anyone who's I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not going to break it down. I'm just going to make a
Right.
point. In the King James version, the description given is that they saw the verse or the phrase used there is the nakedness of their father, referring to Noah. In the NIV, it says they saw their father's naked body. That
Right.
implies that they saw their dad naked, and that was the problem.
Right.
When you go back and study the Hebrew, and Hebrew scholars pretty much all agree on this, that when they use the phrase the nakedness of their father, actually referring to their mother, which would be his wife, it's a modest way of saying essentially Ham raped his mom.
Okay.
But you will find people that will balk at that will say no way, because it's cognitive dissonance. They can't possibly accept that this is the truth. But Hebrew scholars basically say, no, that is exactly what they mean by that phrase.
Right.
So that's just one example. Now, does it really matter? It depends on how much you think it matters. I think it's a big deal, because if you, just like what you say here with the study of hell, it's a big deal, right? I mean, to understand what it's really saying, because that changes the meaning of a lot down the line.
That's right. Here, let's take an example. Howard, do you have kids?
I do. I have
Okay,
one.
so I think all of us, you have kids? Okay, so all of us have kids, So let's just say, answering the question whether it's important, let's say that we're going to be going and we're not going to see our kids. Let's say today's last, and we have a time to write a book to them. And you wrote a great book on instructions of life, on who you are, what you think about things, and you're going to give this to your kids are going to read it one day. Well, they may not know language very well, so someone else is going to read it to them, right? And now let's say that person reading to them maybe changes some of the words that you said or some of the meanings. Then you ask yourself a question. Like, that's the only way they're going to get to know you is through that book, is exactly what you said, the exact words that you said, exact meaning. So taking that analogy, I mean, I would say, yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it's important.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. I mean,
That's really why I was bringing it up, because you guys have done some studying, and I would say, where do you put your trust in if you're going back and studying for yourself beyond going to Hebrew or Greek and trying to translate that yourself?
I mean, if you're looking to just
King
get
James
just get in the Bible, I would say there's no problem. Go pick up an NIV.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to read.
Very
it's
easy to read.
Modern English.
Yep.
And it's going to at least you will develop questions enough to where if you decide that you want to dig into something a little deeper, like the concept of hell or the concept of heaven or whatever.
This is where it gets scary to me, okay, is that I believe that God wants you to dig into the Bible.
He does.
And figure something out.
He wants you to seek him out, yes.
There's something that's there that he wants you to figure out. And if you're going and reading someone's
no, I agree.
different version of it, you're not going to
Yeah,
get
but
that. You might not get that answer.
to be fair, the NIV is very well done. And there are some differences. There are some translation differences. But always reference. I mean, you got to have the King James in your tool belt. But like I said, it's hard to read. So if I'm doing Bible study or reading verses for a Bible study, I'm reading out of the NIV because that's the easiest to understand, because quite honestly, people start reading out of the King James and it takes 10 times longer.
Well, and some of it is just completely impossible to understand.
It really is.
You have to translate that.
But the thing is you can go in from the NIV. When you get something and go, I want to know more about this verse, I want to know more about this chapter. Well, that's when you compare it to other things. And another Bible that I had discussed with DiBiase that I'm enjoying reading right now is actually the Amplified Bible, where they have I haven't done a ton of research on it, but one of the preachers that I really like, her name's Joyce Meyer. She reads all of her Bible lessons from an Amplified Bible, and the Amplified Bible has other words inserted in brackets for clarification, so that you know exactly what the verse is supposed to mean. So if there are things left out, things that are, that you're just supposed to figure out, there's nothing to figure out. It's in there. And then, again, you take that and you compare it against the NIV, you compare it against King James, NASB, whatever you like to use. Yeah, and there lies the truth.
If you're earnestly seeking, everybody's got their thing. Is what I call it. Everyone's got their thing. Right now, the study of hell, I'm just going to say, whether accurate or not, just for purposes of example, I'm just going to say it's Nick's thing.
Right.
All right? The resurrection was Howard's thing.
Yeah, it was.
Right? For me, it's the scientific aspect of the flood, dinosaurs, that whole part of it, demons, the spiritual realm, other dimensions, that whole thing, that's my thing. Now, Tony, I don't know, you'll eventually develop a thing. And if and this is a profession of faith, I don't have anything to other than my own experience and experience of other people around me. If you have a thing and you're earnestly seeking God, then He will show you whatever it is you need to see.
Yep.
Because, like, for me, the concept of hell holds, this is just me personally, holds little importance to me because I focus on other things.
Right.
I'm not saying it's unimportant. It's just not my thing.
Right.
And everybody's got their thing. Some people love the story of Joseph. Some people love the story of King David. Some people just focus on Jesus' gospel. So everyone's got their thing. And if you are earnestly seeking, then He'll show you whatever it is.
And another thing that has been very helpful to both of us is being involved in a community of believers. Okay, we've got people at all levels that we're surrounded by. Some know less than us, some know more than us, some don't know about the topics we know a lot about, some know about topics we know nothing about. And so we've got a group of a dozen or so people, Hooper included, that we are able to have these conversations with. And I mean, okay, so it's kind of a committee thing in the long run, but again, if you earnestly seek Him out, that's what He wants. You will get the answers. I get as many answers through prayer as I do through research on the internet.
I'm gonna chime in because you were asking the Bibles. I know they like the NIV. I happen to like the New King James Version. Mm-hmm. They just take the D's and the thous out, but it's basically the same as the King James. So they take out the old English add-ons there. So, and I think the ESV, the English Standard Version, is another one that I go to. ESV.
I know my friends at Northridge, they are much more comfortable with the NASB.
What's that one?
New American Standard Bible.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
They think that is more accurate than the NIV. But our church uses the NIV, so I mean that's what I read at church.
It's fine, dude. Again, it's not. Yeah. I wouldn't say
unless we're getting it right. We're getting it right.
Let's make it. I got to make a very clear clarification. Any of the versions of the Bible, there's no problem reading any of them. It's whichever one you like the best, right? Yeah. He's got his. But this is where we have to clarify. Don't go looking at the Book of Mormon or the Jehovah's Witness Special Bible. That's not. No. That's where I draw the line. Mm-hmm.
Well,
because they've.
But there are apocryphal books you can look at.
Yeah, that's there. And these are ancient books. That's cool. Yeah. And I study those. The Book of Enoch is the one that I like the most.
I agree.
And of course, oddly enough, until about 300 AD, Judaism supported and accepted the Book of Enoch. They
Yeah.
rejected it right around that time, I think, if I got that right. But a lot of weird things happened at 300 AD
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would just point that out. When you see a book that says...
And for those who are not as versed in Bible history, the Book of Enoch still exists in the Ethiopian Bible.
That's right. And it was found along with the Dead Sea Scrolls. But, if you see a book in the hotel nightstand that says the Book of Mormon, another testament of Jesus Christ, put it right back in the drawer, shut it.
Or if if you find that the desk is uneven, you can just shove it under the lid.
Yeah, it's a great shim.
Yeah.
Great shim. Kindling.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's maybe going... No, it's not going too far,
No,
actually.
it's not. No.
Well, this was, I think we kind of led down this path because I think what Nick's going to present right now is basically different takes on what the Bible says about hell specifically.
Right. So, it's all really all about the same subject. It's about the Bible's interpretations and getting back to Greek words. So, one example, for example, Gehenna. So, Gehenna, hell, the word hell itself, and I was just going to focus on the word Gehenna first because it's as good as anything. But just getting back to translation, Gehenna is actually translated in Matthew alone is translated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So the original word, and we get back to if you wrote a book, you wrote a book to your kids, and you use certain words, would you want anybody to change them? Well, the original word in Matthew would be Gehenna, and Matthew 5:22 shall be in danger of hellfire. That should be shall in danger of Gehenna. Matthew 5:29 and 30. Do you want me to read them?
Sure, go ahead.
Thy whole body should be cast into hell. It should be Gehenna. Matthew 10:28 able to destroy both soul and body in hell. It should be Gehenna. The original word was Gehenna. Having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. That should be Gehenna. Twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. That should be Gehenna. And the last one here, how can ye escape the damnation of hell? That should be Gehenna. And that's just Matthew. There's other places where Gehenna has been taken out and replaced by hell. So, get people, I don't know what everyone here knows about Gehenna, but Gehenna, and we can go on. But
Pretty
Gehenna,
much a garbage dump, right?
It was a garbage dump on the outside of the city.
Jerusalem.
Of Jerusalem, Valley of Hinnom, and I can show you some other place. So Gehenna was literally a garbage dump where they threw dead carcasses of animals. They had fires burning day and night to burn the bodies. Anything left over was eaten by worms.
Yeah, it's kind of like it was where the unwanted and criminals, and it was kind of a modern day Potter's Field.
It was a dishonorable burial.
Yeah, you go to Gehenna, it's bad.
I mean, this is just the first part of the study, but if you really look at this word, first of all, I guess you have to ask yourself a question. Does it matter that somebody changed Gehenna into hell? Of course, we're going to get on the word hell if you want. The original meaning of the word hell literally was grave. That's actually an Old English word that actually meant grave.
Yeah,
so,
I have no problem with them changing the word from Gehenna to hell. My problem is that the actual meaning of hell has been distorted through literature and probably on purpose over the course of the last 17, 1800
so you're talking
years.
about motivation, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Motivation to change the word from...
Well,
Did they just not have another word?
Well, look, Gehenna is a literal place outside. Sheol would have been grave, or Hades was a grave. So they're two different words. And what I would suggest, and don't take my word for it, I think everyone should look at it themselves. Look at the Bible and read it with the proper word in there. And you have to decide, what does Gehenna mean? Well, if you want to look what Gehenna means, we can look at what Gehenna means. It's actually found in the Bible, examples of what Gehenna is. I'm trying to find it here. Matthew 10. I don't have it in this one here. Oh yeah, I do. Okay, Isaiah. This is what happened I mean, I don't know if we want to get into this, but we can. In Isaiah, it talks about the Valley of Hinnom. Okay, it talks about Joshua, who threw all the dead bones of because this is a place where they were sacrificing.
That was Moloch worship.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here's Gehenna. Gehenna is the name of the valley of the son of Hinnom outside Jerusalem. This passage refers to Joshua destroying the idolatry. This is in 2 Kings. So this is about Joshua. He also defiled Topeth, which is the valley of the children of Hinnom, that no man might make his son or daughter pass through the fire of Molech. So there's some nasty stuff going on here. It sounds like people were giving their sons and daughters to Molech to be sacrificed. And then 2 Kings 23, it shows what Joshua did. Joshua filled the bones of men into this place. So it says he broke in pieces sacred pillars and cut down the Asherim and filled their places with human bones. Now, this is what God said about this place. So God's word speaking of this terrible place in Jeremiah 7:31, and they have built the high places of Tophet, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burn their sons and daughters in the fire, which I commanded them not, neither came it into my heart. So that's actually God's actual words. So this is a place, and I don't see any reason or any justification why anybody would change that word to hell, because hell meant grave.
It's interesting, though, because there is another, in fact, I believe it's a quote right from Jesus, where they preserve the word Gehenna.
Yeah, there's some place where the word has been left alone.
Yeah.
Right.
So the question would be why?
The question, that's right.
Right?
That's the question we always asking ourselves. Why?
It's
why?
odd. I mean, if it's
right.
changed to hell everywhere else, why?
That's what I was hoping people would ask.
Maybe because it was Christ's words.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe like, well, let's not go there if it's just in there once. Maybe what's the motivation behind this? I guess is the question.
In the beginning
is it insidious?
It's all
is
Christ's
it
word. I mean, if we want to believe the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I don't know why that particular one.
Right. That one's left alone.
Some translations leave them alone, and they mix and match.
Yeah, it's weird to me.
That is weird.
It's weird to me.
Yeah, so I guess is a question you have to ask yourself, do you want to go back and look at the original word and read it with the original word?
Yeah.
So that's just the first one that I noticed. I mean, I can show you let me see what else we have here. So you got Matthew I don't know if we want to get into this. So you got Matthew 5:21 through 48. So this is where Matthew 5:21. Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whoever shall kill be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whoever is angry with his brother without cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Okay, so, and whoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Now, the original word was Gehenna, but hellfire. So there was different justice of Israel at that time. You had the judgment, which was like kind of an inferior court consisting of 7 presidents. This court could condemn someone to death by the sword. This is something you'd have to look up on your own. Okay.
Yeah, it's context.
They have the council. This was known as the Sanhedrin. This council had the power to condemn him to death by stoning, which would have been shameful. Then you have Gehenna, and we talked about Gehenna already. That would be somewhere where you would condemn a man to denying the burial, and this would have been also pretty shameful. But so if you reread the passages with this in mind, the progression of consequences is natural then if you consider Gehenna what it really is, what we already talked about, the Valley of Hinnom, where you would have a dishonorable burial. So let's reread it. So anger would be like having to go to the Supreme Court, and it's kind of an analogy. It's a little bit funny, but anger is like having to go to the Supreme Court. Okay, if you say Raka, which is it was a term of contempt back then, put you in the state court, and saying thou fool will put you behind the bars in downtown Detroit. And it was just kind of an analogy. It's a little silly, but just to kind of get an idea, like that's a natural progression of what you do. And he's talking to Israel, the Jews, who, they would be familiar with these types of laws and the consequences. It was not a language they were unfamiliar with. So now if you put the idea of never-ending torment in the place of Gehenna, this progression of ideas becomes very awkward. Anger means you go to Supreme Court. Raka means you go to state court, but if you call someone a fool, you're going to get tortured forever. I mean, it does. The idea
the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
The idea doesn't become very extreme in this whole context. It's out of order, and it's trying to make sense. Trying to make sense out of that. Now it takes more creativity than good sense.
A good example would be like when we use the phrase, "Hey, man, if you do that, you're going to get life."
Right. So now you have
you're not going to get life. You're going to get life in prison, but you don't need to add that in prison because we all know what that means.
What you're going to get life means, yes.
Yeah, so now you have to ask yourself a question, okay? Is it important that we switch Gehenna with hell? Okay, first of all, hell meant the grave, but that's a different subject. So let's just call it what we think it is right now is never-ending torment. So God said something to us. He said something, actually, in this case, he was talking to the Jews because this is who this is being directed towards at this time, okay? But, and we should keep that in mind. But
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You said God is talking to the Jews.
This is Jesus. I'm sorry. Yeah, Jesus is talking to the Jews right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But is it important? Well, it's a whole different idea. Now, I've already presented some decent, reasonable evidence of what Gehenna is. It's not like I pulled this out of my hat. This is well known that this word was Gehenna, and the Gehenna has a meaning. So now what does this whole thing mean? Because this is a big go-to on the whole concept of hell. One of the big go-tos. Yeah. And I think it's a good question. Why and who change the word Gehenna? What's the big deal? Why do we need to change this word Gehenna? It said Gehenna.
Right. They left all kinds of cities and tribes that we cannot pronounce in the Bible. Why is it important to change the word Gehenna?
These are very valid questions, and it's a fascinating study.
So what you're saying is from the difference between Gehenna, which was a place where they had dead people where they would throw their bodies,
right,
and hell. How are you defining hell then?
Well, hell, if you want to get into that actual word, first of all, it comes from the word Hades, and there's two words. There's a Hebrew, which is Sheol, and there's Hades, which is Greek. They're both completely interchangeable. Hell, believe it or not, if you actually hear the actual original definition of hell, there's nothing wrong with the word. It means grave. The word helmet comes from that, which would be like a encased, like a covering. It was nothing for Old English to put their potatoes in hell. It was a pit down in the cellar where they would store the potatoes, or they'd hell a roof, which was thatching a roof. So this word hell was a common Old English word that literally meant the grave. Now the word has been, we can't even use the word without the concept coming up. But
right.
If you do go back into Greek, it's going to be Hades. And Hades always just means grave.
Now, when you say the concept comes up, are you talking about
never-ending torment?
Yes.
The internal, never-ending torment. So this is what's in question, and really, it's only to guard against. Hey, what did God say? And this should be something that you have to look up on your own. And this is one of the tougher subjects.
Yeah, because I noticed something. If you look up, like Sheol is a good example of this.
Right.
If you look that up, just Google search Sheol.
Right.
Pretty much the first definition that pops up.
That's right.
Is that it's the underworld in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's exactly what comes up when you look up Hades.
So now, exactly. So this is even worse now. But now what you need to do is you can go back and see how the word was used everywhere else. How did they use it in the Old Testament? Because this is a tough one. This is very ingrained. So if you go back and you start looking at Old Testament, Job, some of these other guys how did they use this word, and can you plug into what they were saying into never-ending torment in their word usage? And that's what you have to do on your own. I mean, look, you have to dig for this one, and look at the word usage, just like Gehenna. We can go back and we can look at word usage. Now, the good thing about this is you can actually start trusting this book And ultimately, this whole lesson isn't so much about hell as it is about showing that you can trust the Bible to show you word meanings, that there's not contradictions, these types of things, because that's ultimately what we want. We want to know that we can trust what it says.
Right.
Gehenna is almost just the fact that they changed the word. It just kind of stumps me. Like, why would you bother? There's nothing wrong with that original word.
Well, the
unless
thing that Dave just said was the underworld.
Yeah, that's the first thing that pops up, right? If you look up any of these, probably.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Sheol for sure, because I looked it up just to see what would pop up out of curiosity. Because last year I did this study. I spent like 3 months studying this very thing you're talking about.
Right.
And I found the same stuff. And to me, it was fascinating, number one, because I have always been a little suspicious of this whole thing. And
You're talking about the whole concept of
yeah,
hell,
and the way that it's the way that it's
portrayed,
traditionally taught. I was just a little bit, just like there's something's up, because you get guys like Nick who can sit here and outline, show you definition, show you direct meaning, show you context, show you all these things, and then you have other, I'll just say, people or groups, churches, etc., that will say guys like Nick are, well, I've heard everything from Gnostics to insane to, you know what I mean? So where's this coming from is what my question was. Why? I mean, what is this? What's going on here, and who's pushing it, if that's something being pushed?
Sure.
So I guess a valid question would be, if the word, like you said, was Gehenna, why did they say, well, we gotta change this to hell? We got to change this word, when they could have just left it alone. They left it alone elsewhere.
Right.
Well, I guess the question would be, and I don't know if Nick has an answer for this, but I bet you can come up with one. When did they change Gehenna to hell? What version? What year?
That's a great question.
When did they substitute? Because what's going on in the back of my mind as I listen to this discussion is always the fact that since within the first 200 years after Christ's death, this is when a hierarchy was established in the Christian religion, when it was hijacked, and it was turned into I'm sure it's power and control. Now it's a money-making thing. They make billions of dollars now, but there was a fight for control, and at the heart of it, we all know a lot about the Catholic Church, with one of the oldest Christian institutions, and the things they were doing was just was basically to make Christianity more friendly to the pagans, to the Gentiles, so that they would convert. If they saw enough similarities, then they would convert to Christianity, and Christianity would grow. So they had the right idea, but they were at the same time polluting the religion.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say they had the right idea. I would even make a case that they.
Well, I think at the very top, it was planned by the enemy, but I think that there were definitely men with good intentions who participated unwittingly.
Well, but like guys like us that just go, But I mean, the formation of this whole thing, a case can be made that they literally just disguised paganism as Christianity,
right, in
the form of Catholicism.
Right.
That's an unpopular view among Catholics, but sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, but it is what it is, right?
Hey, so getting back to very interesting. The like I said before, Dave's definition of the underworld. How do you see that, Nick, in the Bible and the studies that you're doing? You described hell as the grave, whereas now they're describing it as the underworld. What should people take away from that real concept? There's a couple
what you need to realize.
Go find out what it says in the Old Testament.
So
I mean, what you need to realize is that a lot of today's concept of hell is extra biblical.
That comes from Dante.
It comes from Dante. It comes from sources far outside the Bible
that
are also.
you're
Well, what do I think in researching this topic?
I'd say like as a general.
Well,
okay.
prior to researching this topic, I thought it was fire and brimstone, eternal torment, and it's the underworld. It smells terrible, and you're locked in a cage and you're tortured by demons for eternity.
Right. That's where you're going to go if you don't follow these.
I mean, and that is the popular programmed version of what hell is.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it could be argued that whole concept was either, it could be many other things, but I'm going to bring up two. It could be either a way to manipulate and control people, right? As this is, you better do this, or this is your
fear.
punishment.
Right.
Fear.
Yeah. I
right?
mean,
or on the other side,
go ahead. Yeah.
On the other side of that, when a lot of us, people that actually start thinking about this, you say, well, if that's what it is, then I don't believe that.
And you
then you dismiss it.
Right.
So I think
why
that's the point.
why would a loving God ... And
Right, of course.
That's because the first thing that anyone who's not a believer and is too lazy to go get answers for themselves, the first thing they do is to cite all the things in the Old Testament. And if you don't have enough knowledge of the Bible to go, man, look, the Old Testament, the Old Covenant was negated by the New Covenant. Okay? So there's reasons for all these things, but to be honest with you, they're just lessons for us. It's just the Old Testament is there to authenticate the New Testament, to authenticate who Jesus Christ is. That's why the Old Testament is still in there. And everybody always wants to talk about the horrible things that happen in the Old Testament without bothering to look into it and find out why these things happened. And then they refuse to acknowledge the fact that the New Testament, the New Covenant, completely negates the old one.
Well, it completes it. I wouldn't say it negates.
Well, it changes the rules.
It kinda. It changes the rules for us because we're not Jewish,
Right.
But a good modern day analogy, right? When people bring up, because I've talked to people that do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
God wanted to wipe out whole entire, nations or whatever.
Right.
But I think we wanted the same thing during World War II, did we not?
Yeah.
Were we supposed to be Nazi sympathizers? Were we supposed
I think
to
there's a whole lot of people who want to wipe the Middle East clean right now.
Were we
right?
supposed to support Imperial Japan's nonsense that was going on in the South Pacific? Again, he had his reasons, and the one thing that to keep in mind is that no matter what we think, it doesn't matter what we think.
Right.
God is sovereign. He does what he needs and wants to do. And with whether you like it or not.
just like a parent.
Well, whether you like it or not doesn't make him any less real.
Right.
Well, that's the point that you're bringing up is exactly what I was thinking, because when you read through this, when God says to go in and wipe these people clean, right? Man, woman, child.
Well, instead,
everybody.
Yeah, even the animals.
Yeah, go
Right.
ahead. Go ahead.
And the whole point of that, I guess, is what makes people like myself. I'll just say the reason why I'm investigating into it is why would he do that?
Read the passages that surround it.
Exactly.
You have to read the rest of that book. Yeah,
this is where you have to dig into it, not just take.
Because that has been the trick for over 1,000 years, to take certain things in the Bible out of context.
That's right.
And the people who are too lazy to look for context, that's their excuse.
Well, I'll tell you
not to
man.
insult them too much. Look, because I understand, but you know what? There's not a whole lot of tools out there to really help them, or to present something to people that they can dig and they can find. Hey, that's why one of the reasons I want to do this. Say, hey, yeah, you can do this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but that's like reading 3 math problems and then being mad at algebra. Okay,
right.
I mean,
okay.
No, I am gonna be difficult because I'm mad that I was duped by that same system for years.
Yeah.
Well, and if someone's trying to find out whether,
and if someone's genuinely asking questions, I'm not going to call them ignorant and be mad at them. I'm going to be like, "Hey, man, let's talk about it. Let's get a group together."
Maybe if someone who's not completely, I guess it's probably a bad choice of words, but sold on the whole thing, is looking into it, then you have to try to do something to foster that.
But it's the people who dismiss it.
Well, again, and those are probably the people you should talk to a little bit more, because they're the ones that really, if you're just going to say, well, keep in mind that if God offers an explanation for some of his actions, We should just be thankful for that. Doesn't owe us an explanation for anything.
Right.
Just so we understand that. Like, we're lucky to even be breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So, even if there's no explanation given, so who are we to put God on trial? That's all I'm saying.
Right, but it takes time to get to that point. And you have to, and again, that's why I think the focusing, I am with you on the subject of hell and some of the other things, because I choose to focus on grace, on salvation. And I think that is we are going to get. I think it's important for people who are into the Word like we are to clarify these things like Nick is. So I think this is an excellent study for those of us.
Fascinating.
It is, and Nick has really done a great job on this. We're going to be on this for a few more weeks for sure.
It's fascinating.
But when you're talking about someone like Tony who's just starting to explore, I mean, I think he already understands what's going on, so it's fine for him to be in this while he's in the other thing. You got to start out with the New Testament, because you have to understand what you're gaining. The New Testament is completely different, and then that will make you understand more and find the clarification and the proof that Christ is exactly who he said he was.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
How much time?
We are actually going to go.
Oh, wow. Already?
So, yeah, it is time to go. And, I mean, this is unusual for us because the guys from Happy Hour haven't even showed up yet.
The whole day is
to kick us out.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been like that. But this has been Down the Rabbit Hole. Again, there are no more secrets, only ignorance. Please do your own research and check us out next week. We'll be back.